The cops showed up at dawn lights flashing red and blue across the walls of my grandfather's cabin, and they told me I was trespassing on my own land. I nearly spilled my coffee when the rookie started reading charges off a clipboard, and then I saw her standing across the water in a blinding pink bathrobe pointing at me like I was some criminal mastermind, Brenda Carmichael, self-appointed queen of Lake Serenity. That was the morning I realized this wasn't just a neighborly spat. This was war. For a long time, I thought peace had finally found me. 20 years in the military, a marriage that burned out like a bad fever, lawyers that took what the uniform hadn't. I was a hollowed-out man until my grandfather's cabin landed back in my hands. It wasn't much by city standards, just an A-frame from the 60s. 2 acres of pine, a weathered dock, and a stretch of lake that shimmered at dawn like a mirror. No HOA, no endless rules about mailbox colors or lawn height. Just a quiet agreement wave at your neighbor's help when needed and mind your own damn business. For 2 years, it felt like paradise. Then Brenda moved in. She didn't arrive quietly. She landed like a storm. Her McMansion looked like it had been airlifted out of a Dallas suburb and dropped on our shoreline by mistake, blinding white siding windows the size of garage doors, a deck wider than my whole cabin. And Brenda herself, loud, polished, dripping with entitlement. Within days, she was cruising around on a pontoon boat, smiling like a politician, introducing herself as if she owned the lake. I'm Brenda Carmichael, president of the Lake Serenity Homeowners Association. That line made my coffee taste sour. There had never been a homeowners association here. Still, she shoved glossy documents in people's faces, lectured them about aesthetic standards, tried to find Florence Adams, who's 90, for her bird feeders. The first time she tied her pontoon to my dock without asking, clipboard in hand, I told her flat out, "Lady, this is my family's land. There's no HOA, there never has been, and there never will be." Her smile cracked just for a moment before she hissed, "We'll see about that soldier boy." And she meant it. A week later, a violation notice appeared taped to my door, $500 for failing to maintain dock aesthetics. 30 days or else. Then the cops rolled up saying I was trespassing on my own porch. I laid out the deed right there on the railing, and the sergeant studied it long enough to know Brenda's complaint was a sham. He didn't cuff me, but that wasn't the point. The point was humiliation, intimidation, making me question if I really belonged here. She kept at it, hammering away with fake authority. Calls to the county, endless inspections, phony citations. One morning, I found my boat half sunk at the dock, electronics fried gear, ruined water lapping at the seats. At first, I thought it was bad luck until I checked my new security cameras. Her handyman caught on tape crouching at the stern and pulling the drain plug. The next week, neighbors found nails scattered in their driveways. Tom's truck got 2 flats in one morning. Florence caught the same handyman creeping around with a handful of nails at dawn and yelled so loud he bolted like a spooked deer. That's when I started to break. I sat on the porch one night watching her mansion glow across the lake, and I wondered if maybe I should just leave. Pack it up, find another quiet place, let her win. I'd already spent years running from war, from divorce, from everything. Maybe this was just another battle I didn't have the strength to fight. For the first time, I doubted myself. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe peace wasn't meant for me. But then I walked into the courthouse basement, into the dust and flickering lights, and I opened the county records. That was the turning point. Brenda's so-called Lake Serenity HOA legally worthless. She had filed paperwork, sure, but it gave her no authority over me or anyone else. Worse, she'd been buying up old family cabins through an LLC, Carmichael Holdings, and flipping them into unlicensed rentals, weekend party packages. No zoning permits, no business licenses, nothing but profit and destruction. She was screaming about community standards while cashing in behind the curtain. That lit a fire in me. I posted one simple question online. Has anyone else gotten these violation notices? My inbox exploded. 8 different neighbors with horror stories. Brenda finding a couple over mailbox colors, threatening to sue a widow over lawn ornaments, screaming at kids for splashing too loud. Janet Miller, retired librarian, showed up at my place the next morning with a binder thicker than a Bible, every notice dated and indexed. Tom brought invoices for thousands in unpaid fuel bills from her renters. Even Florence called me, voice trembling but strong, swearing she'd seen strangers hauling in liquor and trash at all hours from Brenda's house. That's when the Lake Serenity Truth Squad was born. 15 of us spread across the shoreline, finally speaking out instead of whispering. We met on my porch over strong coffee and Florence's pie, and for the first time I felt less like a man under siege and more like part of a resistance. Document everything Janet said. Stay calm, stay legal, outthink her. We treated it like a campaign information was ammunition. But the real twist came when my lawyer Arthur called me into his office. He laid out documents my grandfather had filed decades earlier, a property trust I hadn't even realized the scope of. Turns out I owned controlling interest in several parcels around the lake, and one of those parcels was the Carmichael residence. I sat there stunned while Arthur explained that Brenda, the woman who'd tried to drag me off my own porch in handcuffs, had been my tenant all along. She'd been paying rent late, inconsistent with violations stacking up for 3 years straight into a trust account I controlled. I nearly laughed right there in Arthur's office. Months of harassment, fake fines, police at my door. My boat sunk, and all this time she was just another tenant behind on rent. Arthur slid an eviction notice across the desk, crisp and legal. "All it takes is your signature," he said. I didn't sign, not yet. I wanted timing. I wanted an audience. And I got one. Brenda called an emergency HOA meeting at her house, gold-embossed invitations promising to protect our community values. We all showed up, neighbors packed into her chandelier-lit great room while she clicked through slides of docks, boats, and yards she called violations. She put my cabin on the screen, my dock, my boat. And she pointed with her polished nail like a judge delivering sentence. Her voice dripped with authority she didn't have. I let her talk, let her rant, let her claim she was the law, and when the time was right I stood up and said calmly, "That's enough." Arthur flicked on the projector and up came the real documents, the trust, the deeds, the lease. Proof that I was her landlord. Proof she'd been violating her own lease for years. The room went silent, then erupted with laughter, clapping, gasps. I held up the eviction notice and said, "Brenda Carmichael has 30 days to vacate the property." Her face turned crimson. She shrieked, pointed at me, screamed about conspiracies. "I am the HOA. I am the law. Here," she cried, her voice cracking. But nobody believed her anymore. Deputies stood by the wall shaking their heads. Her lawyer tugged at her sleeve, already looking for the exit. Neighbors laughed, whistled, shouted. And Brenda, the queen of Lake Serenity, looked less like royalty and more like a desperate woman realizing her empire was made of paper. That was the moment she broke. Not when my boat was sunk, not when she sicked the cops on me, but when the whole community saw the truth in black and white. Her power was gone. Her voice just another echo in a room that no longer cared. I walked back to my seat as people clapped me on the back, eyes bright with relief, and Brenda slumped into her chair, beaten. And that's where the story ends. No celebrations, no victory laps. Just a bully, stripped of power. A community no longer afraid, and me finally able to breathe on my porch again. Because here's the lesson I learned: real power doesn't come from fake titles, money, or fear. It comes from people who refuse to be divided.